Welcome back to the show, Banter fam. Good morning. I hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome back to the show where we discuss everything DeFi and I show you the best DeFi strategies in crypto to help you profit in this market. What a crazy week with Solidly. We saw the Solidly exchange go live. We've seen some crazy emissions and we're seeing APRs of over 2,000% at the moment. And I want to show you guys my favorite strategies in today's video to be able to profit off this market. Let's get straight into the show. So I'm actually in Cape Town right now. This is my very first stream live from Banter Studios. So it's really been a cool experience to come over here, work in the office and meet all the guys. So the content this week is going to be really awesome. I think I'm going to be able to bring some unique content and work with the other guys as well. So I'm over in Cape Town. I'm loving it. And it's the first show in Banter Studios. So smash the like button for the amazing content that we're going to bring you this week. And today is one of the biggest shows of the week because Solidly is such a hot topic right now. It's honestly taken the crypto world by storm and we've seen some incredible growth across the Fantom ecosystem. And today's video is dedicated to helping you guys maximize your yield and help you profit from Solidly because it's been such an incredible opportunity to receive APRs of over 2,000%. And these APRs won't last forever. So if you're not already involved, I'll be revealing my two favorite Solidly staking strategies in today's video, showing you how to use Solidex to earn SEX tokens. Yes, I know, no pun intended. You can earn SEX tokens, Solid tokens, and I'll show you exactly how to stake them to make over 2,000% APR. And in this video, I'll be tailoring these strategies depending on your risk tolerance. Not everyone wants the super high APR. Some people would rather play it a little bit safer. Some people would hold riskier tokens. So I'm going to be showing you exactly how to set up your portfolio dependent on your risk tolerance. But let's get straight into it because there is so much to talk about in regards to Solidly. It's been a crazy week. And we see that the exchange went live. So the Solidly exchange is actually live now. You can use it. You can create LPs. You can stake them to earn yield. And you can actually swap tokens now. So it's live. The emissions have started. So the top 25 protocols that had the NFTs sent to them are now receiving emissions actively based on these pools. And I'll show you how to take advantage of these pools because there are some great opportunities to earn yield at the moment in Solidly. And we've seen the Fantom ecosystem kind of exploding off the back of this Solidly launch because we've had multiple ecosystem projects up like 70, 80% for the week. I mean, look at SpiritSwap, up 82.7% for the week in the midst of, the Russia-Ukraine tension and some Bitcoin macro uncertainty. We're seeing the Fantom ecosystem is actually outperforming pretty much every ecosystem right now. So if you were positioned in these governance tokens and you were stacking them through the lows, you're actually in a really good spot right now because you've not only made money on these tokens, but you're also earning yield. And you're earning yield through Solidly if you're taking advantage of those strategies. So Tarot up 73%. I mean, the Fantom ecosystem is really exploding. Now, the Fantom price itself actually hasn't really reflected this. We're still down 7% for the week. There is a bit of a lag between the governance tokens and the Fantom token. I'm still comfortable with where we're sitting with the Fantom price. I still think we're in a good accumulation zone. Obviously, we can come down to retest that 130 region, but I'm kind of just keeping my eye on the token now, looking at the on-chain metrics and kind of evaluating where we're actually sitting. And I just see there, Beats has really exploded as well. I think Beethhoven, it's up 23%, but this thing just has not moved. Like it's stayed very consistent in its price movement. And it's, one of my favorite tokens. And I'll be going through a strategy there on Solidly today. But before we get into that, I kind of have to explain what Solidly is and how it works because it is kind of complicated. And I have been getting a lot of questions, how does it work? What's the best way for me to optimize yield? And how can I actually, benefit from the APRs that we're getting right now? Because we're seeing some crazy rewards, but there's so many options. So which one do you pick? And I'm going to help you choose the exact pools that you guys can take advantage of. Let's go through what Solidly actually is, just to kind of recap and position ourselves here to understand what's happening in the ecosystem. Because obviously we've seen the crazy growth, but it's for a reason. And that's because it's a pretty unique and innovative project. So it's an AMM, so an automated market maker, kind of like Uniswap. So it's a DEX. It's a decentralized exchange. We can swap assets on the Fantom ecosystem. But the unique thing about Solidly is they've kind of incorporated these mechanics that we don't usually see with DEXs. So we see the governance token, which is Solid, incorporating the VE33 model. So the model that we saw with kind of Olympus DAO with the 3-3 game mechanics, which means the longer you lock up, the more rewards you get. That's basically what it means, the more voting power you get. So it's incentivizing you to lock these tokens. And that is kind of the power of this protocol, because we can see as more tokens are locked up, it reduces the circulating supply and the price can go up even in the face of an emissions rise. So in terms of where the token performs based on these emissions, it's pretty much anyone's guess. It's a big risk right now. All of this is very experimental, so I just want to disclaim that. But there are massive opportunities to be had here if you play this safely and if you kind of follow some of the safer strategies to do with Solidly. But we can see that we have the VE33 model. And we can also see that the emissions were actually kind of borrowed from Curve Finance. So we're seeing the Curve model also being incorporated with the game theory model. So what Curve does is it kind of operates in a way that the more solid tokens you own, the more you'll be able to actually accrue voting rights, which is going to be super valuable because the more solid tokens you can get your hands on, the more bribes you'll be getting. Because we're going to start seeing, as there's kind of a war for emissions, we're going to start seeing some pretty handy bribes being given out in the near future. So what I would start doing is start positioning yourself in these farms, start positioning yourself in the solid token, but do so in a way where you can kind of do it in a risk-free manner. So if you've got assets lying around or you've got Fantom lying around, you can optimize it towards these solid tokens without taking on too much extra risk. So that is kind of what we'll be going through here. And the DeFi Llama, like look at this, the ecosystem's exploded. The Fantom ecosystem has absolutely exploded in TVL. And we can see Solidly has captured almost $2.5 billion in TVL within its first week. I don't think I've ever seen this in crypto. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I cannot remember a protocol capturing this much liquidity this quickly. It's honestly really, really impressive. And it just goes to show the power of Andre, like what he's built in terms of his community building skills and in terms of his, loyal following and the Fantom community. We can see the real power. Everyone's kind of banded behind this new protocol. And there is a lot of hype right now, 2.18 billion. And then we've got Solidex as well, which is the yield aggregator. So the optimizer for Solidly, kind of like what Convex is to Curve. That's what Solidex is. And Solidex has also seen 2 billion in TVL. So it's not just Solidly that's capturing this TVL. It's also Solidex as well, because Solidex enables you to keep your assets liquid. You don't need to lock them up. So I'll be running you through that as well. But just to kind of break things down, we have to differentiate, what is Solidly and then what is Solidex, because some people are confused between the two. And we did an article last week on the website, so make sure you are checking the website every day. There's great articles on the Crypto Banter website. We did an article and it kind of broke down, what Solidly is, what Solidex is, and what the differences are. So as I just reiterated before, Solidly is a DEX. It is pretty much, it's an AMM like Uniswap with some interesting mechanics when it comes to the token Solid itself. So that's what that is. You can create liquidity pairs, you can stake them, and you can earn yield. Pretty simple. It's actually not as complicated as people are making it out to be. I guess the complicated part is the emissions, because there's obviously not a lot of clarity right now over what's happening with emissions, because as we know, the top 25 protocols on Fantom receive these solid NFTs, and they all get to decide how they distribute emissions. So the more TVL they capture before the snapshot, the more emissions were going to be geared towards their protocol, and then the more they're able to distribute to their holders as they get increased emissions. So I guess the kind of murkiness with this whole situation is where the governance tokens and where these projects like SpookySwap, Beethhoven will be issuing emissions, because not everyone's come out and stated exactly where they're emitting. But we are going to optimize. We've got to optimize and position ourselves in the right farms so we can hedge either way depending on emissions. So that's what Solidly is. It's an AMM. And then we've got Solidex. So Solidex is a yield optimizer. I kind of like to think of it as what Convex is to Curve. So it enables you to optimize. It's built on Fantom, and it enables you to claim your solid tokens and stake them, and you don't need to lock them up. So it's a really interesting, you can kind of keep your tokens liquid on Solidex, and they issue this token called SEX. And the SEX token, it's very funny, the SEX token is actually kind of like aggregated. So what it does is they emit on top of the solid token. So if you stake on Solidex, you'll be receiving the solid token, but you'll also be receiving the SEX token as well, which they're emitting. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. And that's why we've seen $2 billion in TVL linked on Solidex, because we've gotten that amount of TVL, people gear towards being able to earn greater rewards. So you can get better rewards on Solidex. And as I said here, Solidex is meant to be what convex is to curve to solidly. So it's built from the ground up, harnesses the power of solidly, and that's kind of how it works. It's an aggregator, it's an optimizer. And that is really important because in every ecosystem, we need optimization. We need options to be able to keep our tokens liquid and also be able to earn maximum profits. So Solidex enables us to earn maximum profits. But just before I reveal my favorite strategies, I do have to issue kind of a bit of a warning and talk about as well what has happened in the Fantom ecosystem, because I've heard, a lot of complaints, and I also have experienced some issues with Fantom right now in terms of transactions. And I kind of want to clarify that before we get in, because it is a headache. I'll be honest. Solidly, Solidex, the UI isn't great. The APRs are great, and that's why we're here. We're in it for the yield, but the UI isn't great, and the Fantom network isn't really coping the way I would like with some of this transaction volume. So before we get into the exact strategies, I have to kind of go through what's happening with Fantom right now, so you guys are kind of prepared. I don't want you jumping in the deep end with these staking strategies and then running into a bunch of issues, because I've run into plenty of issues in the past week, and that's on the back of this. We've seen Fantom increase to almost 1.5 million total transactions. That's more than Ethereum. Like, the Fantom network right now is doing more volume than Ethereum, which is absolutely insane. Like, Fantom is exploding. It's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest L1 right now in terms of DeFi. Like, it's crazy, obviously, apart from Ethereum. But the transaction volume also has some negative effects. So obviously, when we see a spike in transactions, because of the amount of transaction volume that the chain is processing, we are going to see higher gas fees. So we are seeing the gas fees increase, and we're also seeing some congestion with failed transactions. Now, here's a couple tips for you guys to be able to avoid this. First step, simply up the gas. Usually the gas fee will sit around 30 cents at the moment, but if you up the gas, so you can edit on your MetaMask, you can edit the gas, you can increase this amount. Honestly, double it, because if you're going to be paying 30 cents, you may as well just pay 60 cents and get a slightly faster transaction instead of dealing with the headache of having to redo transactions and cancel. It's a pain in the ass. So up your gas, because that'll help a lot with the transactions and you'll avoid running into some errors. And I also just want to disclaim that Solidly isn't fully audited. Solidex isn't fully built either. So these protocols aren't without smart contract risk. There is always smart contract risk in DeFi. And this is, one of the riskier plays. This isn't just safe money. It isn't free money. I wouldn't by no means put all my capital into these protocols. I would be picking a small percentage, maybe 5 to 10%, maybe up to 20% of your Fantom holdings, 20 to 50% if you want to go really risky, but you just have to keep in mind and be prepared to lose it. Obviously, I don't think that'll happen. I trust Andre and I trust these protocols, but at the same time, we do have to be prepared for the eventuality of any smart contract exploitation, because it is not fully vetted in that sense. So just be careful about that and make sure you're not going too crazy with these pools, because I know it's really tempting to get the 2000% APR. And I'm loving farming on these protocols, but at the same time, we have to be careful and we have to pay attention to risk management and not be too greedy. So now it's time for the strategies, exactly what you guys have been waiting for. My 2 or 3 favorite strategies to be staking on Solidly to earn yield. Smash the like button if you're ready for these strategies. I want to see those likes absolutely explode, because these strategies are super cool and super unique, and I'm revealing them right now for the very first time. I haven't even done a thread on this yet. You guys watching the show right now are the first ones to see these strategies on the channel, which is awesome, because it's only been around for a couple of days since late last week, and now we're actually seeing this kind of unfold, and you're able to finally take advantage of these strategies. So I've got a nice kind of graphic here for you guys to understand that Rect Diomedes did on his Twitter. You guys can check that out, and it's kind of this idiot's guide to farming Solidly. So we've got step 1, step 2, and step 3. Rand the man, how are we, brother?
It's so good to have you here in the studio
First show
in South Africa, bro.
Awesome.
Hold on, let's just say hey to the... Hey,
awesome.
Kids. Welcome,
How
bro.
is everyone? Thank you, brother.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you. First show in Cape Town. Smash the like button for the first show in Banter Studios. Super excited to be here with the team, doing these shows live from the studio. It's really awesome to be over here, and it's just such a good vibe. So everyone, let's get back into these strategies because there is some really, really awesome stuff here. I've got to share my screen again. Just 1 second. On the Chrome tab. Ran turned it off. Thanks, Ran. There we go. So this is the idiot's guide to yield farming on Solidly. and or Solidex. So it's pretty simple, and this graphic can kind of help you guys if you're lost, because obviously I'll be explaining the way I do it in this video, but if you ever need a reference point to come back to, this is a really, really good graphic. So it's pretty simple. Step one is making LPs on Solidex or Solidly, on Solidex Finance. Step two, obviously you need the tokens to be able to do it. Step three is actually creating the liquidity pair. Step four is providing the liquidity. And step five is choosing what to do with your rewards. So pretty good graphic here to help out you guys with actually how to go about this. Once you learn these steps, you can apply it to any Solidly farm. So in this video, I'll be showing you, my favorite strategies to be able to farm, but you guys might have your own preference depending on the tokens that you like. And you can tailor that depending on what you want to do. So these strategies are rinse and repeat. Whatever I tell you today, you can repeat the exact same steps for the pools that you want. So I'll be running you through exactly how to do that now. First strategy. What we want to do is we want to go onto Solidex and pick a farm. Solidex is the yield optimizer of Solidly. You're going to get better rewards through Solidex, which is why I kind of like to use Solidex as a kind of proxy to investing in Solidly. Just because you're getting the extra rewards, you're getting the Solid tokens, and you're also getting the SEX tokens on top of that. So if we go onto Solidex, we can see all the pools here. And what pool you pick will depend on your holdings and also on your risk tolerance. So obviously the tokens that are slightly riskier are going to be paying a higher APR. Then you've got your safer tokens like stable coins, which are paying a lower APR. So I personally have found and struck a nice balance with some of the pools that I've chosen, but you may want to choose your own pool depending on your holdings, because what you're holding in your wallet will actually dictate what pools you might want to get into. Let's just give you an example. If you're holding Spooky Swap in your wallet, let's say you already own Boo, then it makes much more sense to go into the Boo pool because you're going to be holding it anyway. So why not just pair it up on Solidex and take advantage of the APRs? You could say the same thing down here for like Wrapped Fantom. Like if you've got Wrapped Fantom in your wallet and you're willing to pair it with a riskier token, that makes more sense than going out and swapping. So it really depends on your situation, what situation you're in, and also what your risk tolerance is. But this is the first strategy I want to run through, and that is Wrapped Fantom Tomb. Now, the good thing about this pool is that there's no impermanent loss. As long as the Tomb token stays pegged to Fantom, and I know that can be kind of risky sometimes because we have seen some volatility there, as long as the Tomb price stays pegged, we're all good. Right now, Tomb's at 161 and Fantom's at 159. So this is a solid option because I know a lot of you already own Tomb. I know a lot of you are already staking in Tomb Finance. So now we're getting an opportunity maybe to temporarily take your funds out of Tomb and allocate towards Solidex. So we can see the Fantom Tomb pair is a good option now. It's paying 200% APR. That's just APR. That's not even compounding. So once we start compounding these rewards, that APR can get in the region of 2,000 to 3,000. So you have to pay attention to the APRs because you can stack yield on top of yield. So how would you enter this pool? You've got Wrapped Fantom, you've got Tomb. The first step is obviously to have Wrapped Fantom and Tomb. You're going to need to have that in your wallet. You can do it on Spooky Swap. Super simple. Just swap your Fantom for Wrapped Fantom. It'll automatically wrap it on Spooky. And then you can swap your Fantom for Tomb. So you want half Wrapped Fantom and half Tomb. Once you've got 50% Fantom and 50% Tomb, you come into Solidly and you can click on liquidity. Now under liquidity, you can click add liquidity, and adding liquidity will enable you to select Tomb and select Wrapped Fantom. And as I said, you can tailor this to any coins that you want to stake. I'm just giving an example here with one of my personal favorite pools. You can you can put Tomb and Fantom together and you can stake them. Now, I'd like to click the volatile just because it makes more sense in terms of the balances. So click volatile, have your allocated Tomb and Fantom in here, and scroll down and click deposit and stake. This UI is terrible, I admit. It's not great. You're going to get errors. The transactions are slow. Like I'm just putting that out right now. Get your aspirin ready because it's going to be a headache. But the rewards are honestly too good. So even with the clunky interface, I'm kind of sacrificing a little bit of a headache for some yield. So I know these kind of steps are a little bit complicated. But once you get the hang of them, they kind of are made a little simpler. So when you click deposit and stake, you're going to need to approve the tokens here. And you're also going to need to do 4 transactions on your MetaMask. Because what it's actually doing is it's pairing the tokens, it's depositing the tokens, then it's staking the tokens. So you'll have multiple transactions to confirm. So when you click deposit and stake on your MetaMask, you'll need to confirm around 3 or 4 transactions to actually create the LP. And what we're doing here is we're creating a liquidity pair. So by having 50% Tomb and having 50% Fantom, then we create an LP which we can take over to Solidex and stake. So the first step to any of these strategies is creating the LP on Solidly. Once you've created the LP on Solidly, as I said, the process is annoying, but if you run into any speed bumps, just up the gas slightly. We can come into Solidex and we can click on the Wrapped Fantom Tomb tab and click Manage. So select the pool you want to invest in, click Manage, and we can see here that you can actually select the amount of the tokens, LP tokens that you got from Solidly, and you can stake them in this pool here. And what this pool will do is pay you 200%. It'll pay you some Solidly tokens, and it will pay you some SEX tokens. And those rewards are super valuable because you can then pair them to earn extra yield in the next pool that I'll be showing you. So that is how you do that. You just LP them in Solidly under liquidity. You come into Solidex and you deposit them under this pool here. And this is kind of how you manage things. So as soon as you deposit, you'll be able to see your holdings here. They'll show up right here. And every day, and it accrues on a minute-by-minute basis, you can come and you can claim your earnings. I would recommend claiming earnings once a week, just because the fees right now are a little bit annoying, and doing it once a week isn't a massive difference compared to doing it daily. So you can come in and you can claim your earnings every single week from Wrapped Fantom Tomb for 200%. This is one of the safer ones on this site. We've got riskier ones that I'll be showing you in a sec, but this is one that I really like. Now, you've got your 200%, you're claiming your rewards weekly. What can we do with those rewards? The thumbnail of the title says 200% returns, 2000% returns, and I want to show you how to earn those 2000% returns, because earning these Solid tokens and earning these SEX tokens actually unlocks the next key to this strategy. And that is the pool on Solidex, which is actually called Wrapped Fantom SEX or Solid SEX Solid. So these are the pools that you can now take your rewards and deposit into. These pools are pretty comparable in my opinion. So the pool that you pick is really up to you. Toss a coin. Solid SEX Solid probably has more upside potential because you're not being limited by the Fantom price, but the APR is slightly lower than Wrapped Fantom SEX, which is slightly safer in a way because the Fantom token won't fluctuate as much as Solid. So it's really up to you what you do with these rewards. Take your pick. The Solid SEX Solid pool is really, really good if you want to put your rewards in there. And it's quite easy to do because as soon as you claim your rewards, you can just follow the process again. You can come into Solidly and you can swap your assets, and then you can swap, say you receive SEX tokens and say you receive your Solid tokens. You can then come into this pool and you can zap in, which is actually an easier way to do it than going into Solid, or you can go into Solid and you can create an LP on Solid using these tokens. And that is a really easy way to do things because you can start accessing this crazy reward. Now, how do you actually get Solid SEX tokens? And how do you, because obviously you're getting the Solid tokens, right? Through the pools, through the Tomb pool, but you're also getting SEX tokens. But this pool is Solid SEX. So you need to have Solid SEX instead of just SEX. That just sounds so weird saying out loud multiple times, but clearly it's a bit of a play on words. So once you have your SEX tokens, you can come into lock SEX. Now what locking your SEX up does is enable you to get Solid SEX. And then once you have your Solid SEX, you can come back in and you can stake it into the SEX pool. Now this will let you earn 2000% APR instead of the normal 200%, or on top of the 200% APR from Fantom Tomb. Now here's the thing. The percentage that you want to reinvest is totally dependent on your situation. Me personally, what I do is I take 80% of my rewards from my Wrapped Fantom and my Tomb pool, and I put 80% back into Wrapped Fantom and Tomb, because that is the safest way to play it. There's no impermanent loss, and the Fantom token, I'm a lot more comfortable holding than Solid SEX, for example. However, I do take 20% of my rewards and then I stake them either for Wrapped Fantom SEX or Solid SEX Solid. I'm actually using the Wrapped Fantom SEX pool instead of the Solid SEX Solid pool. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my Solid tokens, I'm coming onto Solidly, I'm going Wrapped Fantom, and I'm swapping them. And I'm swapping those tokens for, I'm swapping my Solid tokens for Wrapped Fantom. That's just one way that I'm doing it. It really depends, and it's up to you based on which pool you want to use. Toss a coin, they're both very good, and they're both paying over 2000% APR. So I'm putting 80% back into Fantom, Tomb, and then I'm putting 20% back into Solidex Solid, and this gives me the upside potential. But I know you guys are degens, so you might want to do more than 80%. I'm very conservative with this because I view this as kind of more of a short-term play. I'm viewing this as a strategy that I can come in, take my tokens and earn a bit of yield now, and then kind of route them back into Fantom. But if you actually believe in the Solid token long-term, and I also believe in it, but it is slightly riskier, then you can take more than 80%, more than 20% of your rewards into these Solid pools. Maybe you want to do 50-50, or maybe you want to do 100%. Like maybe you're just super bullish on Solid, super bullish on SEX and this entire ecosystem, and you want to pair them to earn 2,000%. You can do all your rewards. You can happily convert all your rewards into these LPs. That's up to you. I do 80-20. You can do 50-50 or whatever amount you're comfortable with. It's all about risk management in crypto. We have to remember, this stuff is risky. These exchanges, aren't super safe, and we don't necessarily know the extent to how volatile these tokens will be. The Solid token could 3x, 10x. It could also come down 90%. Like we don't know. So just play it safe and just be prepared to take losses on these tokens because there is a lot of hype right now. There's a lot of hysteria right now. So I want you guys to be able to do this in kind of a risk-free manner where you're not losing out and you're not kind of risking too much of your portfolio, right? Because the amount I'm staking is probably 10% of my Fantom stack in this protocol. Like any more than 10%, I feel uncomfortable. But it's up to you. As I said, if you're a degen, put in more, but just accept that there is more risk doing it this way. Boo is actually my favorite pool. So I wanted to show you guys wrapped Fantom Tomb and run you guys through that because they're tokens that a lot of people own. A lot of people will already have money in Tomb, and it's also no impermanent loss, so it makes sense to be staking there. But I actually prefer this pool. I prefer Boo X Boo at 600% because the 600% APR is crazy because the Boo correlation to Fantom is very high. So if we go into TradingView, we can see that Fantom and Boo work in tandem. Boo kind of pumps a little bit more to the upside. Obviously, over the past week with Solidly, it has pumped, but it actually has pretty limited downside compared to Fantom. So we can compare the Boo and Fantom charts and realize that Boo is kind of tracking Fantom. So holding Boo is just a slightly riskier version of holding Fantom. Obviously, it's quite a little bit riskier, but when we do look at the price action of Boo, it stays pretty similar. So if you hold some Fantom, you might want to consider swapping some to Boo and actually farming in this pool because it's paying 600% and it's using Boo and XBoo, which is a pretty good strategy in my opinion. Now, in order to be able to create XBoo, you'll need to go into SpookySwap because SpookySwap is how you create XBoo using your Boo. So you click on stake Boo and then you can swap half of your Boo for XBoo. So let's say you have 1,000 Boo. You can take 500 Boo and you can stake those 500 Boo for XBoo. And then you'll have half Boo and half XBoo on SpookySwap. Then you can come back into Solidex, come into this pool here, click on Zap Deposit, and then put in your Boo and your XBoo. Now, I did show you guys before, just to kind of clear any confusion, I showed you how to create an LP on Solidly, but you can also do it on Solidex. It's going to be the same thing. This is zapping into the pool directly. It does save you a little bit of time because it saves you the extra step. I've personally just been doing it through Solidly because when I personally created my LPs, this zapping wasn't a feature yet, but now you actually have the option to zap in. So you can zap in here. There is, I think, just a tiny bit more smart contract risk, but just to save a bit of time, you can zap in your tokens here, or you can do Boo XBoo on Solidly itself because that is another way to do it on the Solidly site. You'll literally just like Boo, the XBoo that you just created on SpookySwap, and then you can create an LP here, which you can then come into Solidex and deposit. And just like the other strategy I showed you, once you deposit your tokens, you can start earning rewards. And the rewards right now are pretty crazy. I think the rewards are like 600% on Boo XBoo, which is pretty insane considering Boo is fairly correlated to Fantom. It has pumped more, so there is more downside potential, but it is a very good token. And you also, obviously, staking Boo is a great thing to do as well because you are receiving rewards from staking your Boo. So the Boo token is a great farm to use, and it's one of my favorites. So this is how I'm personally spreading my risk out. I'm putting a little bit in wrapped Fantom Tomb because I like the pool. I'm putting a little bit of Boo XBoo in here because I like Boo. I actually own some Beats tokens as well, which I'm putting in Solidly under the Solidly pools, you don't need to go through Solidex. You can go in Solidly, but you're not earning as much rewards because you're not earning the SEX token on top of Solid. The benefit to being in the Solidly pools instead of Solidex is that you're eligible for bribes because you can vote. So by actually being in Solidly, locking up your Solid tokens in Solid, there's a vesting mechanism here. Complicated stuff that I'm going to have to cover in another video because I wanted this to be mainly about Solidex in this video, but I can talk about vesting at a later date. You can lock your Solid tokens up and increase your rewards, but that's for a future video because I kind of want to just run through Solidex today because that is what I'm doing at the moment. But in the future, these pools are going to be pretty valuable because you're going to be able to boost your rewards and earn extra yield, and you're going to be able to receive bribes like we saw with Convex and Curve, like we've seen with the Beats Wars. So there's a lot of potential with this protocol, and there's a lot of upside as well, which is why I'm in it right now. And it's why I want to farm some Solid tokens, albeit only 20%, but I want to have some exposure because if this token pumps and does really well and continues to perform like it is at the moment, I want exposure to these tokens, right? And if it doesn't do so well, it doesn't really matter because I would have had wrapped Fantom and Tomb Finance anyway, and I would have had Boo staking in Boo anyway. So it's kind of like, why not just migrate your Fantom assets over to Solidex? Sure, you are taking a bit of smart contract risk, but as a short-term play, so don't hold your tokens in here forever, but you'll be able to kind of accrue a nice balance. So how long you want to keep your tokens in will obviously depend on the APRs. If the APRs significantly drop, so if Boo X Boo drops to less than 100%, I'm probably not as interested. But right now, while the APRs are so high, I'm very interested in taking advantage while we still can. So how you allocate your rewards will depend on you. If you want to put your SEX and your Solid tokens, if you want to put 80% of them, 20% of them, 50% of them back into the pools that I showed you, one of these pools, Solid SEX or wrapped Fantom SEX, you can do that. It's completely up to you, depending on your risk tolerance. And that is the importance of risk management in crypto. This game isn't as linear as just entering a pool. Like when I enter a project, it's not as simple as, am I entering a project or am I not? The question really is, what percentage am I putting into a project? Because the question is not, should I buy Boo? I recommend most people should probably hold Boo. It's a great token. But the question really is, what percentage do I hold in Boo? So this is why I want to preach not being too reckless with these protocols. Don't come in and put in 100% of your Fantom stack into Solidex. That's just stupid. Pick an amount that you're comfortable with, which you're comfortable with taking the smart contract risk, and you're comfortable staking, because these rewards could fluctuate in price. If you're keeping your SEX and your Solid tokens, they can heavily fluctuate. There's no guarantees in the price. If we come in and we look at the price, it has performed really well, but at the same time, the ecosystem is exploding right now and there's a lot of hype. These emissions are ongoing. I think they decrease by 2% every single week. So over time, there's less emissions. Over time, the APRs will drop. So now is really the time to be positioning yourself in these tokens while you still can, right? Because in a little bit of time, like in a month or 2 or 6 months, the emissions will drop and the rewards won't be as good. But see, the Solid token is down 30% today. This thing fluctuates. So you just have to be prepared for this thing to fluctuate. If you're willing to hold the Solid token in the pool, you kind of have to accept that it's probably going to drop. The token will probably drop, but you're offsetting that with the APR. So we can see that by staking your Solid tokens, Solid SEX and Solid, you're getting this APR. And by getting the APR, you are kind of offsetting losses when it comes to the Solid token kind of decreasing slightly. So you just have to be wary of that. I will be posting these strategies straight after this video on my Twitter, because I know these strategies are complicated and I want to be able to break it down for you guys. So later today, maybe in a few hours, I will be posting the strategies in written form on my Twitter. So make sure you're following my Twitter, link in the description. I'll be posting that as a thread. And what I'll also do is link you to this tweet here, because I think this is a really simple way of breaking down how to do it. This is a simple graphic for you guys to be able to take, and I'll also put this in my thread for you guys to be able to see the steps here of how to do it. I know it's overwhelming. I know the network's congested right now. It's not the easiest strategy to pull off, but you do have this idiot's guide here to help you out, and hopefully my thread can help you guys if you're stuck. But just make sure to be responsible with these tokens. Don't get too greedy, but also take advantage, because we're earning 2,000% returns. This is something to be extremely excited about, guys. You're earning a few percent a day. That is really incredible, but just be wary of what can happen to the token price. I just wanted to say that before everyone just apes into these pools, right? Because I'm only putting 10 to 20% in these pools myself. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. I will be live every single day from Banter Studios, and it's going to be an awesome week. We got a lot of cool content lined up. Hopefully I'll be doing some collabs with Ran, Sheldon, Hustle. Like, now we're all in the same time zone. I can actually start collabing because you guys know I'm Australian. I'm from Melbourne. Like, the time zone's weird. Like, I'm streaming at like 5:30 p.m. Then when Ran's streaming, it's like 2 a.m. It's really difficult. But now that I'm in Cape Town, I can actually, over these next couple of weeks that I'm here, I can collaborate with these guys and we can do streams together. And you'll be seeing me on the other shows as well, on the main show, maybe on Sheldon's show. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really exciting week or two. And I'm excited for you guys to see the content we have in store. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will see you tomorrow. See you in the next one. Peace out.